Every time we simply bring up the fact that Nintendo has been kicking PlayStation's ass for the last 10 years or so, you always have people say, well, they're not actually competing with PlayStation, they're just doing their own thing. You know, they're doing their own thing, they're not actually competing with PlayStation. And of course, you know, to anybody with common sense, basic common sense, and just basic critical thinking skills, can see just how stupid that is when both companies are literally manufacturing video game consoles and both are making video games. Now, PlayStation kind of stopped making video games, and I'll get into that later. But regardless, it's really stupid to say they're not really competing with each other. They obviously are. But people keep saying that Nintendo's doing their own thing, right? Oh, they're doing their own thing. And they could never really explain what that means. They could never really elaborate on that. It's just always, Nintendo's doing their own thing. It's like, okay, and what's that exactly? Because last I checked, Nintendo has been doing what they've always been doing. They never changed course. They never changed their strategy. They never changed the type of video games they make. They never changed their philosophy. If anything, they've just doubled down on what they've always been doing, right? They've always been making great video games, and they've always been making those great video games exclusive to their system. And now they're doubling down on it by making even more great video games and making them bigger and better than ever before. So, who exactly is it that's doing their own thing? If anybody is doing their own thing, it's actually PlayStation that is doing their own thing, quote unquote, not Nintendo. PlayStation is the one that decided they were going to stop making video games, they were going to stop competing with Nintendo, and they were going to start doing their own thing, which is cinematic experiences. And that's it. So people need to stop with this narrative that it's Nintendo not competing or doing their own thing. It's PlayStation that got bullied by Nintendo into just making these, wannabe Hollywood movies that you can just interact with. Look, you could do a QuickTime event where, you gotta dodge the punch, and then you gotta throw this one, left haymaker. Then you gotta slip the jab and then throw a punch to their stomach, just all this boring crap, right? Just all this really boring crap. It's like, okay, it's like you're playing with a movie, but you're very limited because it's a movie, right? At the end of the day, it's completely scripted. It's like 90% scripted, and you get to, the only thing you can really do differently is how you choose to walk to the next scene. So you go from one scene and then you have to walk to the next scene. And I guess between you walking from one scene to the other scene, you can kind of just, walk around in circles randomly, and that's about it. You can probably look at the beautiful details of the photorealistic graphics in the video game. And that's it, really. Whereas the video games Nintendo makes, you have full control of the environment and what you want to do with it. Just look at Donkey Kong Bonanza, perfect example. Kirby Air Riders, perfect example, where you can just do whatever the hell you want to do, right? So many different options you have. But not with PlayStation video games. PlayStation got bullied by Nintendo into just making these cinematic experiences. They realized they couldn't compete with Nintendo in making actual video games. They've been trying to make their own version of Mario, all right? Crash Bandicoot, yeah, that failed. That failed so bad that he's not even really like a PlayStation exclusive anymore, and you could play as him on a Nintendo console. Who else? You got Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, who's the other one? Ratchet and Clank. These are all characters that are meant to appeal to everybody the same way Mario does. Because look, yes, Mario is a rated E for everybody, and yeah, a lot of kids are gonna be, into that, but so are a lot of adults. A lot of adults love Mario and love playing as Mario. And PlayStation tried to recapture that magic as well with the games they've made that are rated E for everyone, but they failed. They got beat. They couldn't compete with Nintendo there. And so they pretty much hadn't really been making those games as of late. They've been making just cinematic experiences, Hollywood type movies, and no matter how much the internet complains and says, hey, we want games like Killzone to come back. We want games like, what is the other one? Infamous. We want Infamous. You know, we want these other games. We want Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, and Twisted Metal and all this other stuff. No matter how many times people complain on the internet, PlayStation is just like, no, we're not gonna make those. We don't wanna make video games anymore. We wanna make cinematic experiences because we simply just don't wanna compete with Nintendo. Now, outside of just the video games and consoles, there's also other areas that PlayStation backed away from. You have, you know, innovation. You know, they stopped innovating. They stopped trying to innovate, which they were never really that innovative. They just try to copy whatever Nintendo was doing. But there was a time where they were kind of innovative before Nintendo was, and that was with the PlayStation 2, and that was with the iToy. Now, the iToy was basically like a camera that you connect to your PlayStation 2, and you would be projected onto the actual TV, and you can just like hit these like bees and bugs that were on the screen or whatever, things like that. I don't know what other games they had with that, probably a lot of shovelware, but it was them definitely trying to make something that could appeal to other people, and it didn't really get the same success that the Nintendo Wii got. Nintendo Wii got way more popularity than that thing. So it seemed like after that, they kind of stopped innovating or stopped trying to do things differently. They focused more on power and whatnot. And, you know, they would wait many years in order to like start making their own version of some type of innovative gimmick that Nintendo made. So in this case, Nintendo made a Nintendo Wii with the Wiimote and nunchucks, and then PlayStation, they waited many years to make their own stupid looking dildo device that was supposed to be like the Wiimote. It looked like a damn dildo. It looked gay as hell. It had a bulb at the end of it. That thing did not last long. They had no success with it, and because they had no success, they decided to abandon it, abort it, not really make games to work with it. So they didn't make games that would utilize it very well. They made it, and they thought that it was gonna sell well, and it didn't really do much for them. So they pretty much abandoned that, and ever since then, they have not been competing with Nintendo when it comes to innovation. They stopped doing that because Nintendo was kicking their ass when it comes to innovation. And I think it was just recently they decided to make their own version of a Wii U gamepad, which of course is called the PlayStation Portal. PlayStation Portal, it's like a Wii U gamepad in the sense that like it's not a hybrid. It's just, here you go, here's a big tablet with controls on it, and you can just play your PlayStation 5 games on it so long as you have connection, you have like connection to Wi-Fi. If you don't have Wi-Fi connection, you can't even play the damn thing. So it's actually worse than the Wii U gamepad somehow. Yeah, what a piece of shit. Then of course, we all know how Nintendo kicked PlayStation's ass in the handheld gaming department. When it comes to handheld gaming, Nintendo has always been the king. They've always been unstoppable. And when PlayStation tried their best to make a better handheld in the PlayStation Portal, they completely failed. They got dominated. The PSP, all it had going for it was, look how powerful it is, you know? So it's like, okay, we're gonna make a more powerful handheld device, and more people are gonna buy it because it's more powerful, and look at the graphics, right? That's pretty much what happened. But what didn't happen was it being more successful than Nintendo's handhelds. Definitely not. Nintendo still kicked their ass with the Nintendo DS, which was very innovative, had the dual screen and everything, and one of the screens you can actually touch. That made for a lot of fun games, especially a lot of first-party games that were very fun. People were actually, even like third-party studios were taking advantage of like the gimmick and how cool it was, and they were making some really fun games for it. But PlayStation Portal, I mean, that shit didn't really go anywhere. It got its ass kicked. And then of course, we all know about the 3DS and the PSP Vita. And I remember that dumbass Colin Moriarty saying that the PSP Vita was going to dominate the 3DS or whatever, and boy was his dumb ass wrong, because the freaking 3DS just completely destroyed the PSP Vita. It wasn't even close. It was like, I think 70 or 80 million for the 3DS, and the PSP Vita was like freaking 10 million or something. It was pathetic. It wasn't even close to being as dominant. As a matter of fact, it got outsold by the Wii U. So the people who want to talk shit about, you know, the Wii U or whatever, hey, the fucking PSP Vita sold less than the Wii U. So yeah, when it comes to handheld gaming, they pretty much gave up and they stopped competing with Nintendo there. Now they're trying to get back into it because they're seeing how successful the Switch has become and how successful the Switch 2 is about to become. Or, you know, it's already a success, but it's likely gonna pass 100 million. It's likely even gonna pass the lifetime sales of the original Switch itself. I am pretty sure that's gonna happen. I have no doubt about it, because I mean, it's gonna have a very long lifespan. There's no reason to make an even more powerful version. Maybe a version that has like, that's slightly more powerful. They're definitely gonna make a Switch 2 Lite, which makes sense. Are they gonna make a Switch 2 OLED? Probably, maybe not, I don't know. I don't know if it's even necessary because it already looks really good. I think a Lite version would make more sense. But you know, we're not gonna see like a Nintendo Switch 3 in the next 10 years because there's no really, I don't think there's any reason for it. I think they can literally wait until like 12 years or so. But regardless, this console is gonna sell an insane amount of numbers, and now PlayStation's basically trying to make their own little hybrid version, supposedly. I don't know how true it is, all of this is rumors, but they're definitely trying to get back into making handheld consoles again because they desperately want to capture some of the success that the Switch has already had. Let's talk about how Nintendo bullied PlayStation into, you know, lowering the price of their video games. I mean, ever since the Switch, and I even think the Wii U as well, Nintendo kind of just stopped doing permanent price drops on their video games. This was a smart thing to do for many reasons, because people would wait for the game to go on sale, right? It's like, oh, I'm gonna wait until it goes on sale, until it drops like 30 bucks or so. But then what would happen is, once the game finally did drop in price, they no longer cared about that video game. They moved on from it. They're like, oh, well, it's an old video game now. It's about a year old. Time to, you know, play one of these new games coming out. So Nintendo, you know, decided to stop doing that. And it was actually Satoru Iwata's idea to do this. Now, this is important to know because a lot of you idiots who hate Nintendo, you will name drop Satoru Iwata, talk about how great he is and all this, and how he was the best thing for gamers, and Nintendo was at their best when he was the president. And obviously you're all full of shit because you didn't buy a Wii U when he was the president. You talked trash about him when he was the president, when he was alive. You all shitted on him. And you can't really use his name to talk about, you know, how Nintendo used to be good and they used to love their consumers when he was around, because he was the one who came up with this philosophy of never dropping the price permanently. And he was right to do that, and I'm glad he did that. But it is really funny how you guys act like that was not a Satoru Iwata thing, or that's not something he would have improved of. Yeah, he would have, because he's the one who implemented it in the first place, dumbasses. But you know, ever since Nintendo's been doing this, their games have been selling like in the double digits of the millions. They've been selling 20, 30, 40 million copies. And because of that, you know, PlayStation, their games haven't really been selling well because people are like, well, you know, I don't have enough money to spend on these extra games for PlayStation. I'm just gonna have to buy these great Nintendo games and only save up money for the next Nintendo game, right? That's pretty much what's been happening. PlayStation, they have no choice but to be like, okay, we're gonna have to do more sales, do more price drops and everything, and hope that, you know, people buy our games. But I don't think it's really working at all. It's not really working at all. So Nintendo pretty much bullied PlayStation when it comes to pricing video games. All right, and finally, Nintendo has bullied PlayStation out of exclusivity. PlayStation no longer treats exclusives as a priority anymore the way Nintendo does. PlayStation has pretty much decided, you know what, their games are only going to be exclusive for about a season, and then after that they're going to go straight to PC and probably to Xbox as well, and probably to Nintendo as well. So they pretty much lost the war when it comes to exclusivity. They're still kind of doing it, you know, where it's like, oh yeah, it's going to be exclusive on our console for about 3 months or 4 months, and then it's going immediately to PC gaming. So they're definitely wanting the PC gamers to carry their games, and you know, they're hoping to sell more copies with PC gamers, and it's just barely working, you know, barely working. But Nintendo's not ever gonna do that. Nintendo didn't do that during the Wii U, during the GameCube, during the N64. These were generations where they were down really bad, okay? They were at their worst, especially with the Nintendo Wii U. Everybody thought that Nintendo was gonna start putting their games on PlayStation and Xbox, and guess what? Nintendo basically said, eat a dick. Nintendo never gave you losers their games. They said, you know what, we're gonna go out of business before any of our games go to your console. And that just, you know, that kind of shows the mindset and mentality of Nintendo. Nintendo, they're not a bunch of cucks like Xbox. Xbox, they're just these, you know, pathetic cucks who bend over backwards for PlayStation and decided to humiliate their own fan base. Nintendo, they refused to do that when they were losing money, when they were actually just, you know, losing console sales and everything like that. No, they stuck to their guns and say, you know, exclusives are always going to stay on Nintendo consoles. People try to, you know, say that, oh, well, they put one of their games on mobile devices like phones. Sorry, that's not really the same thing. That's not the same thing at all. What big AAA Nintendo video game, or what Nintendo game that is on exclusive to a Nintendo console is also on a mobile device? You're not going to find any. So PlayStation right now, just recently they put like a few of their games on Nintendo, but of course they're just putting their more lesser known titles or whatever. And I don't think anybody's buying those stupid games. You shouldn't. If you're a Nintendo fan, like, don't even bother buying those, you know. The only games that I would buy from PlayStation if they come to Nintendo would be Infamous, Killzone, Fat Princess, Twisted Metal, maybe Fall Resistance of Man or whatever, or Resistance Fall of Man. I said that backwards, whatever, who cares? And I think that's about it, you know. I could care less about God of War. I could care less about, you know, Uncharted, Last of Us. Those are all trash games. But regardless, guys, Nintendo has pretty much bullied PlayStation into doing their own thing. Nintendo never stopped doing their own thing. They've been doing what they have been doing since the 1980s, okay? The only difference is they're doing more of it, and they're doing it better than ever. Anyways, guys, I want to hear from you in the comments below. Let me know what you think about all of this. What do you think about this stupid narrative that implies that Nintendo is not competing with PlayStation? Look, to people are going to use this argument right now. They're going to say, well, you know what? Nintendo themselves and PlayStation even said that they're not competing with one another. And yeah, they did say that, but you know, context actually matters. Look, when PlayStation says they're not competing with Nintendo, they're basically saying, yeah, we're not competing with them because we don't want to compete with them. We don't want to get in their way. We don't want to get run over, so we're not competing with them. When Nintendo says they are not competing with PlayStation, they're basically saying we're not competing with them because we already whooped their ass. We already whooped PlayStation's ass. We destroyed them. We're better than them. We're bigger than them. Our intellectual property and franchises are far greater than any of theirs. So yeah, we're not competing with them. They suck. We beat them. We're competing with Disney now. Okay, we're competing with Pixar now. We're competing with the biggest intellectual properties and franchises in the world. We're competing with them now. We want Mario to take the crown away from fucking Mickey Mouse. That's what Nintendo means when they say they're not competing with PlayStation. They're just saying that, look, We're not competing with them because we already whooped their ass. They're no threat to us. They're not a competitor to us. We destroy them already. That's what Nintendo was saying, guys. So anyways, y'all leave your thoughts, comments below. Hit like, hit subscribe if you are not subscribed to this channel already. And with that being said, I will talk to you guys later.